Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell movement.
Welcome to the Powell movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and while winter is coming and I want to get excited, I just can't right now. If you're a listener, you know what my issues are. And if you're not, I'll tell you. My wife died in June, and I don't know if I'll ever be the same again. You see, for 3 years, I was a caretaker, and I felt so bad for my wife, Anne. She was in so much pain, and she suffered so much, and it was just miserable to watch. There was pain, surgeries, procedures, tubes. It just sucked so much. And then she passed, and while I was feeling bad for her, now I feel so bad for Keaton and I. And I'm just lost. It's so strange. I mean, I'm sitting alone in my house, not talking to anyone. I've never had this in my life, and it's really lonely. I feel bad for all the single people out there. I guess I'm really lucky that I get to talk to people for this podcast, because if I didn't, I don't know if I'd ever talk to people, and I'd be even more lonely and sad. So what I was doing when Anne's first passed was I was going to the bar every day for the first month or two. And while that seemed to help a little bit, I got really sick of drinking, and now I'm back to my regular routine of a lot of best days and barely drinking any alcoholic beverages unless I'm binge drinking, which will probably happen this weekend. The hard thing with life at this point is that there's so much going on, especially with our kid. I mean, he's 16 years old, he's about to get his license, he's about to do his college applications, take his SATs, and it's all on me to raise him, and I never signed up for that. We were a team and we were supposed to do this for life. I don't know where I'm going with all of this. It's just every day kind of sucks. And I actually came really, really close the other day to going a full day without crying. But then I made it to like 9 p.m. and then something triggered tears and there we go. The faucet went off again. And the crying from grief is different than the crying from anything else I've ever experienced. That went on for a long time. My shirt was wet from tears. It's pretty crazy, but that's what's been happening to me. I really hate this. But I really hated Anne's being sick and suffering way worse. And fuck, I have to stop doing this to you, telling you how bad my life sucks in these intros, because you really don't sign up for that. You sign up for an awesome podcast. And someone who doesn't have a shitty life is 2022 Freeride World Tour Champion and badass pro skier Jess Hotter. And I'd keep this intro going. Actually, I'm lying. I wouldn't keep this intro going, but I do have to head out because I'm going to go see Jess in the new MSP movie tonight. It's in Seattle, and I suggest you check out the MSP movie, the TGR movie, the Level 1 movie, all the movies whenever they come to your town, because it is a fun thing to do and it will get you stoked for ski season. I've also noticed I've had a ton of Kiwis on the podcast recently, and while their accent is interesting, each one of them has a different story, and Jess's is unique, and I think you're going to like it. Before we get into it, I want to thank you for listening, and I want to thank you for continuing to send me kind messages. It really does mean a lot to me, and it does help in some weird way, although I cry a lot when I get them, but it does really feel good, so thank you very much. My message back to you is thank you and get your colonoscopy. It could save your life. What else may save your life is telling a friend about this podcast. How will that save your life? Who knows? Who cares? Just tell someone for me, please. But the most important thing that you can do for me is to listen to my sponsor ads and buy their products. The brands that make this show happen are Elan Skis, Stanley, Therm-ic Heated Socks, Best Day Brewing, Outdoor Research, and Descent Labs. Now it's time to chat with Jess Hotter. So I'm going to start this thing out with religion, and I happen to be a non-practicing Jew who doesn't really believe in God, and that maybe makes me not Jewish. But is it true that you're part Jewish, or am I just making shit up here?
I think there's some Jewish blood in my family, way back a little bit, but yeah, I don't practice any religion personally.
Okay. Are there any Jews in New Zealand that you hear about? Because I never hear about New Zealand Jews, although I never really go asking about it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't really move in very religious circles either, so I actually don't know. Yeah, I don't really hear about any Jewish people kicking about in New Zealand. I'm sure there are people, but just don't really know where they're at.
All right, fair enough. Well, I hear you're a frugal person, a very frugal person at that. And I've had a few dirtbag ski bums on this podcast who tell tales of saving money in the pursuit of being a ski bum, and we'll start there. So even though you're a well-paid athlete, do you do ski bummy shit in order to save money in the winter? Like, do you hitchhike instead of drive to save gas money and stuff like that?
At the moment, hitchhiking's kind of a spicy one, like as a single female. So, especially in other countries. So I tend not to like get on that kind of buzz. But, oh man, like at any time if there's like free food or, let's say like actually a big one was like, especially on the Freeride World Tour at the hotels, I don't know if I'm going to get into trouble for this, but at the hotels, we would always, like, if we got breakfast with the hotel, and especially if it was like buffet style or anything, we would definitely would fully load up on food so that we didn't have to buy food for the rest of the day. So it'd be like making sandwiches and tucking them away in napkins and stuff and throwing them in our pockets, and definitely doing a lot of that. My most dirtbag situation was when I first started competing, and I was being as frugal as possible. At every single motel I went to, I was stealing bags of Frosted Flakes and putting them. I had this like one big plastic bag that I'd like put Frosted Flakes into, and I'd like sneak into like the buffet, like for breakfast food area at any motels that we were staying at, or if a friend was staying at one, I'd be like, yo, can you fill up my bag of Frosted Flakes, bro?
That means that when you're traveling around, because a lot of pro athletes, especially when they get older, they're more into health and eating healthy is super expensive. Do you sacrifice on eating healthy in order to save budget and eat cheap?
Ooh, I think at the moment, if I don't eat super healthily and I'm not like sleeping well and stuff, I get really sick. So I'm trying to do better with the eating healthy thing at the moment. But even like beans and rice, like it's still pretty healthy, but it's cheap. Yeah, I'm a big beans advocate, love beans. So it's because they're cheap, they're healthy, and yeah, pretty easy to make stuff with beans.
And then I also hear that you're one of those athletes who could easily expense parking at an airport for one of your sponsors, but you'd rather take a bus to a cab to this, to that, to not have to expense a parking spot. What's up with that?
Oh man, I would like absolutely refuse. I hate parking. I don't think I've ever parked my car at an airport. Yeah, catch and ride. There's like Pop a Ride in Canada. You can like catch a ride up to the airport. I'll do like overnight buses in New Zealand. Yeah, I've pretty much don't think I've ever parked my car at a parking lot at the airport for any trip. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to try and keep strong with that one. But yeah, heaps of buses, heaps of trains, walking with my ski gear. I've actually got a real good setup now with my bags. I can actually walk pretty long distances in cities with my bags without it being too much work.
Okay, well, that's something that you figured out to make life easier for you. Do you splurge on anything?
Ooh, cheese. Cheese all day long. You know, when you're like, oh, treat yourself. But every time I go to the supermarket, I treat myself.
But it's not like you don't make money, because I heard you recently did a photo shoot for Bentley or something like that. What's that all about?
Yeah, was so lucky I got to be involved in a shoot for Bentley, where I actually got to jump over a car, which was super cool. Pretty nuts to be part of like a production, you know, because obviously like Bentley moves in very different circles to like the ski industry. So it's just crazy to see, you know, the production system and how that all works in creating their products. It's just super cool. And yeah, got to jump over a car, which was pretty fun.
Can you say that you've driven a Bentley?
No, I can't say that. I dream of that. They had a professional driver driving the Bentley. I don't think I'd be allowed to touch it.
They didn't even let you sit in it. They're like, no, she can't even get near it, but she can jump over it.
Yeah, I really should have asked if I could get in the back of it while the guy like rips around the course. That would have been pretty sick.
Yeah, well, next time you do a Bentley shoot, you should do that. But I don't think you get the Bentley mindset from your parents, because it's like you're born into a ski bum family. Your dad's a ski patroller and your mom works on the mountain. Is that like how you grew up, as a full ski bum household, and that's kind of how you live the way you do today?
It was a mix. Most of my very early years, my dad was either working at the mill or ski patrolling. And pretty much since I've been born, my mum's been a primary school teacher. So we definitely have a little bit of that like ski bum lifestyle. Every now and again, oh man, I'm going to get into trouble for saying this, you know, dad sneaking up the mountain in the middle of the day to go for a few laps. And I'd see him up there when I'd bunked school for a few laps. Yeah, I don't know. We definitely have always like had that passion for skiing. Like my mum and dad have gone and done seasons overseas and stuff. So being born into that ski bum vibe and making sacrifices to make skiing happen. Can you hear me?
So you guys were able to make skiing happen. And I've had a lot of Kiwis on the show this year, but most are from the South Island, and you're from the North Island. What's the major difference between the South and North Islands?
The North Island doesn't have the Alps. So the South Island is the Southern Alps, and the North Island is most of there's epic beaches in the South Island too, but we've got some like very beautiful epic beaches in the North Island, and the skiing is on volcanoes.
You grew up skiing on a volcano?
Mm-hmm. Oakuni is the town, and Ruapehu is the mountain volcano.
And do you grow up skiing on a club field? Because I've heard of club fields, but I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, club fields are like, I don't know exactly how they work, but the clubbies are essentially like a bunch of people get together and who are really passionate about skiing and all put in money and put in a bunch of volunteer hours and work to make a ski field happen, essentially, like putting in lifts and putting in buildings and building huts and things like that. So it's like, in my mind, club fields are like the true essence of skiing. It's just a bunch of passionate people working together to make skiing happen and having a good time together in the mountains.
And was that your kind of upbringing in skiing, or was it different?
Mine was a mix. So my first ever skiing experience was when I was 4 years old at the club field on Ruapehu called Takino. And it's on the more like southeast slopes of Ruapehu. But it also has 2 commercial fields on it as well. And I grew up skiing mostly on Turoa, which is more the southern commercial field.
Okay, so it's all like in the same place, they're just broken up. It's kind of like different camps on the glacier.
Yeah, it's like one big volcano, and there's 3 ski fields kind of evenly placed around this volcano. If you wanted to, like from Turoa, you can go to the very top of the lift and you can traverse all the way around to another ski field. It's a big job, and you get one very sore leg.
Yeah, I could totally imagine that. So you start early on, you're putting a race program, and I don't think racing was for you. But after racing, did you have a park phase, or was it straight into like dropping cliffs and big mountain type stuff?
I didn't have the biggest park phase. I tried, like dabbled a little bit, but I definitely more gravitated towards the dropping cliffs kind of thing. I've been trying to learn tricks for years and have taken many slams doing it. So yeah, learning tricks definitely hasn't been my strongest skill, let's say.
When you think about coming up in the North Island, I hear so much more about the South Island, but is skiing and the skiers, is there the same amount of passion and the same amount of people doing it in the North Island?
It's a different crowd. When I was a kid, the North Island was cranking, like people were traveling from Auckland and Wellington and driving to meet in the middle to Oakuni and National Park and going skiing on the weekends. And it was so busy. Like my hometown goes from just over 1,000 residents to north of 10,000 people on the weekends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, oh yeah. And they would have like thousands of people on the mountain, especially when I was a kid. I think things have gotten a little quieter now, but it's still, yeah, like people get after it in the North Island. And I feel like more in the North Island, and this is also like the same for kind of the club fields and certain places as well, is you've just got like people up there skiing and like whatever equipment they could get their hands on, like there'll be people up there in their overtrout and their swan dry and oilskin jackets and stuff, like their farm kit. And it's really cool to see. I just love it when skiing, where everybody's getting up there and they just do it with whatever they have.
It sounds like the skiing in the Midwest as well. It's just like anybody's up there in a NASCAR jacket, but they're skiing and having fun.
Yeah.
And then when you think about coming up in New Zealand, is it one of those things where every girl has a crush on one of the Wells brothers?
That's hilarious because I actually got those guys to sign my helmet when I was, probably like 17. I think I got Jossie and Byron to sign my helmet when they came to the North Island. They did like a little show on the jumps, I guess. It was like, these guys are coming to the North Island, and all us kids gathered around and watched them hit these jumps, which was pretty sweet. But yeah, I think I had more of a crush as a kid on Byron than Jossie.
I was just wondering if it was one of the Wells brothers. But in thinking about skiing and culture and stuff like that, it's cool that they came there. But really, who were the skiers that you looked up to when you were a kid?
I just kind of looked up to my friends. I never really grew up in the world where there was, say, like ski movie. I mean, there were ski movies, but I didn't really grow up watching ski movies or them being something that was in the forefront of my life. We didn't have like ski movie premieres or any of that kind of stuff where I'm from. So I think I had a different upbringing from especially like seeing North American kids who have that like, in the autumn they go and watch the ski movies and get hyped up and have all of their idols and stuff. So I like didn't have that. I just really, really loved skiing, and going skiing with my friends is what like got me frothed up and got me stoked. And so I would just, whatever my friends were doing, I was trying to do the same, if not better. And I think my first time I actually had somebody to really look up to as far as like free riding goes is I had a poster of Lindsay Dyer on my wall, which I stole from a ski shop.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just kind of whatever posters we could get from the local ski shops that they were done with.
And I mean, if you're looking at someone who's going to inspire you, it sounds like the skiing that Lindsay was doing, especially at that time, was probably right up your alley.
Oh, hell yeah. The photo I had of her on my wall was sick. She was hitting some massive ass cliff, and I was like, damn, that's cool. I want to try that.
And you weren't on track to become a ski racer at that point. And I'm guessing you weren't a weekend warrior. So were you able to get on the hill more than just a couple times a week?
Yeah, I kind of curated my school life around being able to get up the mountain as much as possible. We had like clubs in the third term. So like our winter season, we would have clubs, and there was a ski and board club. So you could go up once a week in the afternoon. I did the school race team, which got me up the mountain one day a week as well. What else? I worked as a dishy in the cafe up the mountain for a bit.
So you're just like this, 16-year-old dish dog who's skiing as much as you possibly can in the shitty conditions that you guys experience all the time?
Yeah. Honestly, it didn't matter how bad the conditions were. I just friggin' loved skiing. And not that I don't now, I still love it, but I'm definitely a little more picky about the weather, shall I say. Like back when I was a kid, I was like, it does not matter. I do not care how shit the weather is. If the lift is open, I'm on it. So I remember having an argument with my school teacher on one of those clubs days where we were meant to be going up the mountain, and only the bottom lift was open, the park lane. I remember having an argument in the parking lot with her about why we weren't going up that day. And it was storming up there and raining. And I was like, we should be up the mountain. It's open. And yeah, I just remember trying to persuade her, doing anything I could, but it didn't work.
And the crazy thing about you is you're not on any sort of track to become a pro skier when you're in high school. I mean, did you have any idea that skiing would be a part of the rest of your life?
Yeah, no, I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do after I left school. I was like on track to possibly go to university. And then there was just like a few circumstances that kind of happened that didn't line up for me to go to university, I guess. Well, I could have gone, but my parents were like, we're not really sure that you're that passionate about going to university. So we have these air points that need to be used before this certain date. Would you like to go to Canada and do a working holiday visa? And I was like, sorry, what now? And having that thrown at you when you're in high school and like every teacher's telling you university, university, university. And you're like, oh, I don't know, this is kind of a big decision. And mum and dad were like, you have 3 days to decide. And I was like, that's a lot. But I did a lot of pros and cons lists and chatted to friends and family and ended up making the decision to go to Canada. And that was where I fell in love with North America as well, and did a working holiday visa, lived in Banff for the year. And after that, I wanted to become a ski patroller, and I just wanted to be in the mountains.
So it's like so different than anybody else that I talk to, where a lot of parents are like, either A, you need to go to college, or B, we'll give the ski thing a couple years and we'll see if you develop. But you don't have a ski thing. It's not like you have anything going for you in the ski world whatsoever. You're going to be lucky if you get a job as a liftie over there. You know, who knows what you're going to be able to do. So they were just encouraging you to take a gap year. They're like, look, don't go to college. Don't waste your time and money. Go over there.
Pretty much. So like, yeah, there's no point in spending the money on that if you don't know what you want to do and you're just doing it because you've been told you should be doing it. And they were like, go and have some experiences. Because, you know, they'd obviously traveled, or they'd both studied, but they also then went and like traveled the world and did really, really cool adventures. You know, my mum traveled around South America on a truck. My parents both traveled around Europe. They traveled around North America. You know, like being on some really cool adventures and hearing those stories as a kid makes you, you know, want to try them as well. But to be fair, leaving home that first time was really tough. But I'm really glad that I did it. And gap year turned into what my dad calls as a gap life.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm stoked to have Therm-ic back on the podcast as a sponsor. Because when temperatures get nuclear cold, I don't hit the mountain without my Therm-ic Heated Socks. They are the original heated sock, and still the industry leader after 20 years. It's a total game changer. We all know that if your feet are frozen, you're not skiing or snowboarding at your best. And if you are, you're suffering through it. I make sure that never happens by always wearing my Therm-ic socks. Therm-ic's game-changing smart elastic technology heated socks are a world's first. These SET socks are a high-performance fitting, thin ski sock where the patented heating components have stretch instead of a bulky band and element. so you literally feel like you're wearing your normal favorite pair of performance ski socks. But if heat isn't for you, don't worry. Therm-ic has you covered with socks for winter with their athlete-tested and proven Descent line of socks. This is the #1 recommended sock by boot fitters in North America because for over a decade, Descent has engineered performance socks to eliminate things like chafing or heel blisters in your boots when you're touring or splitboarding. Descent socks have a distinct locked-on fit that never seems to change, no matter what you get up to. At the end of the day, Therm-ic and Descent socks are the go-to socks for the people that know. Drop into your local boot fitter and retailer and you'll see what I mean. Next up, it's outdoor research. And if you're not aware, there isn't an outerwear brand on the market that performs as well as the products that OR has been putting into the marketplace for over 40 years. That's what happens when you test your gear in the soggy, cold, often miserable conditions that the Pacific Northwest delivers on a yearly basis. As we know, days in the mountains are always more fun when you're warm and dry, and that's why people trust OR to deliver time and time again. Plus, the styling of OR's winter products the past few seasons reflect years of working with a team of snow athletes that include the legendary Mark Abma, world champion Troy Podmilsack, and X Games gold medalist Zoe Aitken. So they worked with engineers and designers to create pieces that look as great as they perform. And for me, I'll tell you, on cold days, I live in my men's Snow Crew down jacket. It's hands down the warmest jacket I've ever owned. And then for the standard Northwest days, I rock the Snow Crew jacket and pant. They're sick. One of those fits where if you don't see me ski, I look like a pro. Really, I've been loving OR products since I bought my first OR rain jacket when I moved to Seattle in 2000. I wear their products during every season nowadays. If you want to be warm, dry, and look cool this season, head on over to outdoorresearch.com and check out the new line of gear. My final sponsor this round is Stanley. And sure, you used to know Stanley for keeping your grandpa's coffee hot in that signature green water bottle. Well, they still make that iconic bottle, but Stanley is the talk of the world these days. And while they may have started with the Powell movement, oh how they have grown. Nowadays, icons like Messi and Caitlin Clark and Post Malone and Olivia Rodrigo are all swearing by their Stanleys. And I've been telling you about how incredible their products are at keeping your drinks hotter and colder than anyone else for over 8 years now. I mean, Stanley invented the category in 1913, and they're constantly innovating to make sure that you have the best. And I know I love having the best. Lately, I've personally been drinking more water than ever thanks to my Stanley Quencher. And when I go to the mountain, I've integrated Stanley food storage devices into my ski routine instead of buying that $20 burger. But I have to say, my all-time favorite Stanley products are their pint glasses, which I've used every day for 8.5 years or so. Like millions of people out there, I love all my Stanley stuff, and I want you to get on the Stanley program too. They give me their best discount code available, so you get 30% off of all your products. And to do that, you head on over to stanley1913.com and you go shopping, buy a ton of stuff because you're going to get 30% off of it when you check out and use the code Powell2025. So that's all capitals, Powell, no spaces, and then the numbers 2025 2025. That's going to get you 30% off your Stanley products. Those are my sponsors. Now it's time to jump back into the podcast.
What were the highlights of that Canadian season?
Oh, skiing powder. I'd skied powder once. When I was 6 years old, my parents took me on a trip to Canada. Very, very lucky to be able to do that. But obviously, as a 6-year-old, you don't really ski that well and also don't really remember a whole lot.
Fernie, right?
Yeah, we went to Fernie. And yeah, hadn't skied. I'd skied powder one time, I think, at my home hill. We still call it the Epic Tuesday. It is still spoken about and amongst my friend circles as the Epic Tuesday. Yes, I'd only skied powder once at home, and going to Canada and experiencing powder for the first time, doing it on park skis was pretty how you going. Definitely tomahawked out of some stuff because anytime I tried to hit a cliff and land in powder, I was going over the bars. But so much fun skiing trees. Definitely did that 18, 19-year-old partied a little bit too much maybe, but we got through that.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do on a gap year, especially when it's not like you're a full-on athlete at that point. You are there as a tourist with a work visa to work, have fun, and kind of experience life. Then you head back to New Zealand. And at this point in life, for most people, 18, 19, 20 years old, most people on this podcast at least, this is where their pro ski career is taking off and they're starting to get sponsors and everything's happening. But you're at a ski shop at this point And is the dream to be a patroller at that point? Like, shit, I got to figure out how to get to the South Island and be a patroller?
Well, no, I actually became a ski patroller straight away when I came back home to New Zealand. I knew that I wanted to be in North America and I wanted to be skiing. So I was like, get back to Canada, I have to get sponsored. So I was like, all right, I'm going to become a ski patroller because they sponsor ski patrollers. And also I'd worked at Sunshine Village in dispatch and I'd been around ski patrollers a bunch and had been working with them and saw that it was a really awesome job. So I was like, sick, I'm going to do that. So I actually went back to the North Island and immediately started trying to figure out how I could become a ski controller. I did trail safety in my first season back at home at Whakapapa. It was on to the other commercial field at Ruapehu. Yeah, and then the next season I became a ski patroller and I ski patrolled in the North Island for 3 seasons. So I spent 4 seasons up there. After I ski patrolled at Ruapehu, I worked a ski season at Snow Centre in Oakuni. And then after that, I moved to the South Island. But in between, I did a season in Japan as well and some seasons in Canada. It was all in the time I started competing.
Yeah, because it sounded like people were kind of encouraging you to start competing at one point when you're patrolling. Then you go to Japan and everyone's like, you should really start competing because you could do something here. And when you think about you going to Japan, did you spend a full season there?
Yeah, I worked in a restaurant and working holiday visa again, worked in a restaurant, and I was the bell-to-bell kid. I was in the line for the lift at whatever time it opened. I can't even remember. It might have been like 8:30. And I'd be lined up at 8:10, ready to go. And then would ski basically until the last second before I had to go work. But yeah, I ended up meeting some guys at my job, funnily enough, where I was working. And one of them had been a freeride coach and he encouraged me to give it a go because I'd been talking about doing it for a while. I just hadn't pulled the trigger on it. I wanted to in high school, but there was a couple of circumstances that didn't line up, so I wasn't able to. One of them being mum and dad wouldn't let me skip mock exams.
Okay.
Yeah. At high school, we had end-of-year exams, but we had practice exams as well. So you kind of had an idea of where you were at before you rolled into your exams.
Sure.
And our practice exams were on that week, and mum and dad wouldn't let me go and compete.
What the fuck? And then they let you skip a whole year of university or whatever to kind of follow a ski career. What did that test matter? Your ski career could have gotten kickstarted earlier, but it probably all worked out perfectly with all the experience you got from living all over the world. When you think about it, you've lived in Japan, you've lived in Canada, I think you lived in St. Anton maybe.
Yeah.
You've lived everywhere. I mean, is the snow and the experience in Japan as great as everyone says, and is that the number one spot?
Japan is epic. Up in Niseko, it was snowing. I've never looked at a snow forecast and it'd been it's going to snow 3 centimeters, and you wake up in the morning and it's 30 centimeters on the ground, and it's every day. That is mind-blowing to me. But to be fair, I have scored some insane seasons in Fernie, and also in St. Anton. That season I was there was one of the best seasons they've had for, I don't even know how long. It was just storming for weeks straight. And we just pretty much just skied the same run for 2 weeks because nothing else was open, and we were just getting drenched. I can honestly say some of the deepest snow I've skied has been in St. Anton.
Wow. And you've been everywhere, so that's very impressive. And you go to the South Island, I think it's Treble Cone, you're a patroller there. Do you have any really heavy calls that you show up to?
I've been really lucky that, when you show up to somebody that's beating themselves up a little bit, a lot of it's problem solving, and I'm really lucky that I haven't had to show up to, say, a friend that's really, really badly hurt.
Yeah.
I did show up to a homie that was pretty badly hurt at Ruapehu one time, but he ended up being okay, thank God. But yeah, no, I've showed up to a couple of pretty rough accidents, but nothing too hectic. I was actually very, very lucky in my career because people did die on the mountain. People do die on the mountain. Yeah, so I've been really lucky as far as showing up to gnarly stuff.
Here, patrollers, there's a lot of different things they're doing, but one thing it seems like is they're playing cop. But in New Zealand, where risk is part of life and adventure travel is encouraged, can you ski and do whatever you want there, or do you have to play cop as well?
I mean, every now and again, you've got to be a bad cop, but it's usually pretty warranted stuff. It's all, we don't want to be dicks, Yeah. Ski patrollers don't want to be dicks, but they will be a dick if they have to. And, if you're a dick back, if you're somebody who's gone and ducked a rope or something and it's closed, the big one that ski patrollers hate the most is it's if you duck a rope, and something is closed for like avalanche safety, that's like a huge big no-no. That is like, you're putting people at risk, you're putting yourself at risk, like
Yep.
that's a big dick move, and not like a big dick energy move. That's like a big dick head move. So that's when you get into trouble, is when that sort of stuff happens. And at that point, ski patrollers will be pretty pissed off, and rightly so, because you could bury yourself and nobody knows you're there.
Totally.
And accidents do happen, and people do make mistakes, and I've made mistakes before as well, like with closures and stuff. And if you make a genuine mistake, you just apologize and say, I'm really sorry, I fucked up and I won't do it again, and I'll bring you guys a box of beers, and generally it's pretty good.
Nice. It's funny what beers do.
Oh, dude, ski patrollers are bought off so easily.
Yeah, I would think it's one of those jobs where you're not making a shit ton of money. You're doing it for a lot of passion. And it's one of those things where you have to work a summer job. Did you have to work all summer as well?
Oh, yeah. Like when I first started competing, I was working like 3 jobs, like I was cleaning Airbnb houses, I was babysitting, I was working in the ski shop. As soon as the season's over, it's like, where can I get work? I need work right now to try and save money to get overseas. Yeah, like I've mowed lawns, I've painted houses, I've put windows in, I've done all kinds of random stuff. Worked on a potato harvester, I've packed parsnips. Yeah, I don't know, you do what you have to do to make the dream happen,
Well, the dream doesn't start until so late with you. I mean, I think it was like 22 when your first contest. And what was your first contest? What was the whole experience with that?
Yeah, it was really hard to get time off of ski patrol in the North Island just because they don't have a lot of people that can stand in. So I basically told my boss the season before that I was going to go and compete for the next season, and I needed a week off to do that. So yeah, I'd gotten the time off and I went down to the Remarkables. That's where they do the North Face Frontier. Yep. And there was a 2 and 4 star, which is super awesome. Like these are still competitions that run to that. I did them last month.
You won it, right?
Competitions. I won the 2 star. I got 3rd in the 4 star.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did the 2 star. Me and another girl I knew had signed up, both from the North Island, and I fell in the 2 star and actually hit my head on a rock. But I was really lucky, didn't break my helmet or anything, and didn't end up, KOing myself or giving myself a concussion. And I actually got a wild card spot into the 4 star where I got 3rd. So that kind of lit the fire under my ass, and I was like, all right, I want to keep doing this.
And it's crazy that you're able to crash and still get into the 4 star. And the 4 star, I would think the venue has got to be something different than anything you've ever experienced before. Is that scary when you get to the top of that and you look down and you're like, holy shit?
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty new experience. Like, I'd never skied that terrain before. I'm fairly sure I hadn't even skied down it that week. Yeah, I'd never skied it before, and I was doing visual inspections for the first time and looking at something from underneath and being like, okay, now I'm going to go ski that. It was pretty gnarly standing at the top of the 4 star face. And even now, like, I stand at the top of the 4 star face and I'm like, man, if you fell in the wrong spot, you'd go for a ride.
I mean, is it one of those entrances where it's kind of blind when you roll over and then you can see all the way to the bottom once you get in?
Yeah, from the top, you can't see past the first hits. So you get in and then you do your first hit and then the face opens up to you. So it's definitely from the top, pretty blind. So yeah, definitely a lot of hesitation and stuff going into that. But there is actually a spot that you can stand where you can see most of the face that people post up on before the competition. That gives you a pretty good view.
And from what I gather, the scariest thing in skiing at your level are blind rollovers, and it's the blind rollovers in Alaska.
I've never filmed or anything in Alaska, no.
Oh, man. Well, you got to get there.
It's the dream for sure, but it's so expensive. So those athletes that go and film in Alaska, a lot of time they are paying out of pocket for that experience, and it's so much stress. Like, you could be sitting inside for 2 weeks while the weather is trash, and then all of a sudden it clears and they're like, now go ski the biggest line of your life.
Right.
And that's pretty hectic. I feel like you have to like really mentally be ready for that. And it's like something I would really love to do for sure, but also at the same time, I'm very aware of the stress that comes with that. But yeah, definitely blind rollovers, super gnarly. You got to really know where you are on the face. And I definitely have noticed sometimes I'm a little bit, you get a little bit hesitant going into a blind rollover. You take a couple extra turns and it makes it look a little bit less flowy, especially if you're filming and stuff. But
Sure.
Also, you really don't want to be in the wrong spot, because if you blow it and if you put yourself over some really gnarly exposure and you roll off the wrong thing, you'd be like that guy who accidentally fell like over, was it like 100 meters or something crazy? He just like blind rollovered off this enormous cliff and then just somehow got lucky and survived it. You know, like that sounds like a worst nightmare kind of operation. Did he end up like 3 meters deep or something in the snow?
Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that.
Dude, he was lucky it was soft. You would not survive that in New Zealand.
Yeah. So you end up at the podium on that contest. Is that a fork in the road for you? Like now you're like, holy shit, I know I can do this. Now I need to figure out how to compete all over the world.
Yeah, there was a couple of factors at the time. I was kind of dating a guy in Canada at the time as well. And he was like another reason as to why I justified it to myself. I was like, well, I'm going to go and compete in these competitions. So it's okay if I go over there to like be with him as well. So it was kind of like this killing two birds with one stone for the first season in North America. And yeah, after competing in those competitions and like meeting the community there, I was like, damn, this is awesome. These people are the best. I definitely want to do more of this. And that really opened up the door, I think, that season. Really opened up that like competition door. But the thing that kept lighting the fire was every time I came back to New Zealand, I would do slightly better in the 4-star competition here in New Zealand. And it made me like believe I had the potential.
Is the goal in your head like, I not only have potential for the 4-star, but I'm going to make the Freeride World Tour and I'm going to be a pro skier on this big tour?
Do you know what's really funny? I don't even know if I had that goal. I just had the goal of trying to do really well in the 4 stars. It eventually ended up going super well when I was in Europe. I was having not the best luck in North America and was persuaded to go over to Europe to compete. And just because of the way the competitions and everything are run over there, it's a little different to North America.
So that move was calculated to give yourself a better shot to make the Freeride World Tour, because the second season you did okay in Canada, but it is so hard to make the Freeride World Tour. I think there's like 1 spot from North America, 1 spot from Europe and everywhere else. Did it just look like it was going to be easier for you in Europe and you went that way?
So in North America, I was just kind of struggling with the format of the competitions as well. I do better in a 1-day competition without having like the pressure of 2 days.
Okay.
And that's what North America did, is they did 2-day competitions. And I'd always blow it on the second day. I'd do pretty well day one, and then I'd absolutely just tank on the second day. The other thing was visual inspections and everything. And I kind of chatted to Dion Newport, who's the godfather of free skiing in New Zealand. He's the one who like organized all the competitions. He runs the junior competitions here. He was like, you need to go to Europe. And I was like, Jesus, that's going to be expensive. And yeah, saved as much money as I could and made it happen. And the competitions over there definitely run more like the format of the Freeride World Tour. And I think that was really beneficial. And I think it lends better to the way that I ski as well.
And when you think about, you had to save up every penny that you had and all that stuff. I mean, St. Anton is probably not the cheapest destination that you could go.
I got really lucky that season before I met this freaking awesome human, Josephine Litzau. She's from Copenhagen. And she was here for the competitions in New Zealand. And we became friends. And I ended up living with her for the season and had the absolute cheapest rent situation that I possibly could ever have. And the whole thing about this whole freeride journey is that I look back and there's moments like that where there's no way I could have made that work without her, you know? And then when I was in Fernie, I was living with my friends Evie and Riley. Same thing. They charged me absolute fuck all for rent because they knew that I was on the bones of my ass there in the first place. And this just wouldn't have worked without the community that is freeride and the ski industry and all of these wonderful people around me. Because, damn, there was moments when I was like, yeah, really scraping by, and friends hooked it up and helped me make it work. And, you know, it's just freaking amazing, really.
I mean, it's almost like a class system in skiing, because if you look at it, it's like the racers are like first class. They get everything they possibly want, it seems like, especially if they're good. And then like the park and pipe Olympian guys, they're not getting what racers are getting, but they're getting pretty close. And then all the freeride guys, unless you're every year in MSP and TGR and like the top 1%, everybody else is dirtbagging, it seems like.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of that for sure. You know, like races more often come from wealthy families because wealthy families can make it work. They can make those trips from New Zealand over to North America to be racing all because you have to be on snow year round to make that work, you know?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the park guys, it's becoming more elitist, you know, like the kids that are up and coming in freeride as well, like they are doing back-to-back seasons. their families have got them doing back-to-back seasons, and they are insane skiers. You know, they're crushing it. They're, you know, at the level that I'm at like 16. That's like insane. Like with it becoming more of an elite sport, there are people that are doing programs from day dot. They are in freeride programs from like 8 years old. And that's why, you know, they're at that level. But also the cool thing about freeride, I think, is that you also don't need that to be able to achieve at this point. At the point that we're at, you don't need to have had formal training. You can just be super passionate about it and it work out. And I think that's why New Zealand skiers, like that's why the Kiwi skiers do so well on the Freeride World stage, is because they just friggin' love skiing and they have a really good attitude about it. And they're out there skiing with their friends, pushing each other. The conditions are less than ideal. So as soon as there's like a remote tiny little bit of powder, like everybody's like, we're doing dubs today, you know, like it's, the vibe is just, it's incredible. And it's such a cool thing to be a part of.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and I'm going to start out with Elan Skis. While some of us wish every day was a powder day, that's not reality. And that's where the Wingman and the Wildcat come into play for men and women. Think hard-charging front-side skis that are designed to make you remember how fun carving is. And they're still versatile enough where you won't want to go switch skis if it snows or it gets choppy out there. Like almost every Elan, these are both award-winning skis from reputable sources like Ski Magazine and others. And Wingman and Wildcat aren't only super fun to ski, but they're going to make you a better skier. And while you can find out about Wingman and Wildcat and the Playmaker series and Ripstick over at elanskis.com, the place where the knowledge about Elan skis and really everything in the industry is in your local ski shop. So go to one this fall, smell the wax and the P-Tex, flex the skis, and most importantly, talk to your local shop guy. The guy who's a real skier in there, and he can help you pick out what's best for you. So Elan wants you to support your local ski shop, and you can ask them what the right pair of Elans are for you. My final sponsor this round is Best Day Brewing, and now is the time to think snow. And skiers, snowboarders, weekend warriors, tubers, sledders, snowbikers, snowmobilers, snowshoers, sled doggers, shovel racers, snow angel makers, ice skaters, snowball fighters, igloo builders, you get it. The doers of winter are starting to get ready to shred, and post-shred, it's all about après. And this year, do après the right way. Forget about the calories, forget about the alcohol, forget about not taking more runs on the mountain, forget about getting in trouble on the way home, because with a beer from Best Day Brewing, you don't have to worry about any negative consequences. Just incredible flavor. Blind taste tests prove that you won't be able to taste the difference between a Best Day and your favorite beer with alcohol. The only difference you'll notice is how good you'll feel in the morning, and you're going to remember what you did last night, which is almost refreshing as a Best Day itself. To celebrate your best day yet, next time you're at the store, pick up a 6-pack of Best Day. Or you can always buy it on your Alaska Airlines flight, Amazon.com, or head on over to bestdaybrewing.com to get the full assortment of Best Days. Those are my sponsors. Now, let's jump back into the podcast.
2019, that season, did you do anything different going into it? Or did things just click for you because you were on fire that year?
Yeah, that was a funny one. So I won the competition in New Zealand, the 4-star, and that was like, okay, well, if I want to make the Freeride World Tour, what's the best chance of me actually doing that? That was about the point where I actually like really was thinking about the Freeride World Tour. And I'm going to be honest, I actually didn't watch the Freeride World Tour until that season. I had never watched the tour. But yeah, that season went super well. That was when I decided to go to Europe and compete over there. And I was skiing with Josephine and her group of friends every single day. Like we skied so hard all the time, you know, like getting home from skiing and barely just being able to keep my head up, you know, just off to bed straight away some days. You know, like we had such a heavy hitting season that I feel like that definitely helped my skiing massively. And it also just like frothed me up so much. And it really helped with going into those competitions in Europe where I did the 4 stars. And my first competition actually went terribly. I did a couple 3-star competition, got insanely lost and absolutely tanked the comp. I tanked a couple of competitions. Then Montafon went really well. And then after that, I did Nonda as well, and Nonda went super well too. That was when we first kind of had a New Zealand freeride team, and Snow Sports NZ had helped out. They had a little bit of extra funding and they helped us out with accommodation. They just got us accommodation at a couple of competitions, which was massive for a lot of us who were really surviving on the skin of our teeth.
You ski better when you're not sleeping on the floor and not stressing about where you're going.
Definitely, yeah. So, yeah, those competitions went super well, and it was really great to have like a team and a crew around me that I could bounce ideas off and chat to and have other Kiwi riders around. And I genuinely think that that was a huge part of me qualifying for the tour, because we all discussed lines with each other, and that's where I got ideas and got helped with, line choosing and all of these things as well. And I still, like, to this day, go and chat to the Kiwi boys. When I was on the tour, I would like chat to Blake and chat to Finn and chat to Craig, and I was like, what do you guys reckon? Jamisa really helped me quite a bit too.
So you get that help by having the government in New Zealand back you guys and put you guys together. But then I would also think that, is this around the time that sponsors come into play?
Yeah. So I think it was when I got second in the 4-star in New Zealand, I actually got approached by Head New Zealand, and that was through a guy that my mum used to teach at school, Dan Tahuya. He's an absolute legend. He asked me if I'd like to be sponsored by them, and I was like, hell yeah, I'd love to. So that's how I got onto Head in the first place. Was through
That's got to be a shit your pants moment, right? Like when someone's like, hey, we recognize that you're badass and we want to start giving you product.
It's a pretty cool feeling. It's a pretty cool feeling for sure. Yeah, I felt super lucky. I got, hooked up with gear there for a couple of years. And funnily enough, actually at that Montafon competition, I'd broken my helmet a couple of days earlier before the day before Montafon, and I desperately needed a helmet. And Dan Tahuya put me in touch with the head rep, like the team manager in Europe, in Austria, Zemir, and he was coming to Montafon that day, and he bought me a helmet and a suitcase and stuff. And it was a pretty like pinch me moment when I found out that I won, and he'd given me this gear the night before, and he goes, how did it go? And I was like, man, I won. He's like, that's amazing. And that was kind of the first time I like made contact with the European crew. And yeah, when I qualified for the tour, that's when we started chatting about contracts.
So you've got Head and they sign you to a contract. Who else are the brands that pay you?
I'm also, at the moment, I'm with Montreal, which is a merino brand out of New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with Eau Claire gloves from Quebec, and with Peeps. And, well, obviously, like Tyroli is with Head as well. I've gotten some bags, some Osprey bags through Southern Approach in New Zealand here. I've been sponsored by, Snow Centre, the ski shop that I actually worked for in the past.
Do you need to work a summer job, or does pro skiing pay the bills?
At the moment, skiing is paying the bills, which is awesome. But it wasn't that way until I won the Freeride World Tour. I was still working full-time in New Zealand until I won the tour.
So you qualify for the tour in that 19 season. Then I think it's the 1920 season that you kind of come out of the gates. It's Kicking Horse. And it has to be the most perfect day for a Freeride World Tour event. Has you ever been to a comp where it's lined up as good as that first one did?
Oh, that competition was insane. It wasn't my first competition on the tour, though. My first comp was in Japan.
Okay.
But Japan was definitely, that was a weird one. I didn't come out of it with the best headspace. Came back into Canada, me and Blake rolled from Japan to Canada as soon as we could because it was raining in Japan. So we were like, might as well go skiing in Canada.
Yeah.
And we had the best week skiing in Fernie, and I think that really just set us up for a great week at Kicking Horse. And Dan, that morning was amazing. I still remember struggling to eat my salmon bagel in the morning. I struggle to eat in the morning before competitions. I think a lot of athletes do as well.
Do you get really nervous? I mean, because you didn't grow up competing. So I would think your first few contests, it's got to be surreal standing there realizing it's all on you. But when you get to the big leagues and the live stream and all the kind of press and everything that's going on, is it nerve wracking for you?
Oh, shit. Yeah. Yeah. There's just so much build up. You sit and look at the face for half a day. That's the thing is with film skiing, you look at a line, you try and memorize it, you take a photo, you try and memorize it, and you're like, all right, good to go. And you go straight up and do it. And it's just you rip the Band-Aid off really quickly. But with the Freeride World Tour, it's a whole event and it leads up to this big crux moments. So there's a lot of stress and everything involved in that. But yeah, Kicking Horse, I was so stoked. My family had come over to watch me compete. My mum and dad. My brother was living in Canada at the time. He was living in Edmonton, so he's still there. But my mum and dad came over to watch me compete. And my little brother came down as well. And so I knew that my family was there, which was really awesome. We'd been skiing together. We'd all like ripped really, really fun laps. It snowed a bunch and then cleared for the day, for the competition day. And we were hiking up the venue at sunrise. So it was like I think the competition was pretty much finished by like 10 a.m. We were done. Oh gosh, that was an incredible day. The snow was amazing. That was the competition where every single girl stomped their run. Everybody skied so well. And it was just one of those competitions that made me so stoked to be amongst like the progression of female freeride skiing. You know, like had Andrew Pollard at the bottom, like, you guys fucking crushed it. He was so stoked. He's like, every girl stomped their run. It was nuts. Everybody was frothing, you know, it was a really, really cool event. It was funny getting into the top of my run, actually. They were like, oh, there's 2 more athletes and then the female skiers start. And I was like second to drop. It was Jacqueline Pollard and then me. And I was dropping from start 2. So I had to like walk over there. And they were like, oh, female skiers, you guys need to go now. And I was like, oh shit. Okay, so like we're trying to get over to the start 2 as fast as possible. I'm like taking my skis off my backpack and they're like, you're dropping next, Jess. Get your shit together. And I'm like, oh my God. Bro, like skis going on, pole, like just blah, gears on. And they're like, where's your GoPro? I was like, in my pocket. And they're putting my GoPro on. The battery's dead. They're trying to change the battery. They put it on my head. They're like, you're dropping in 10. And I'm like, oh my gosh, mouth guard and music on. And they press go on my GoPro and it immediately dies. I have no GoPro from that competition, which is really funny. But my first hit went really well. I didn't realize how like close everything was on the Kicking Horse venue. So I actually almost missed my second cliff, which then resulted in that weird trajectory and I landed on a tree. It was definitely a moment where I was like, there's no way I'm skiing out of this. Not a chance. And I got so lucky. I spread my legs just enough that my tip didn't hit the little punchy tree. So I got so lucky that I didn't get tripped up on that tree. And then I'm still skiing. So I was like, well, I guess we just keep going then. And Ari Tricomi had skied that line, I think the season before or 2 seasons before. And I'd like watched her GoPro run so many times over because I was like, that's the run I want to do. That's the cliff I want to do because I really liked the cliff at the bottom. As I was skiing into it, I had to just tell myself, like, ski it like Ari did. Don't you stop. So I was just like telling myself to keep going. And it all like came together really well and got into the air, was like, damn, this cliff's actually a lot bigger than I thought it was. And landed and skied out. And I do remember hitting the sun shadow line because it was the morning and the light difference was so strong. As soon as I hit the shadow line, I was like, oh, it's dead flat light. I can't see any bumps. I was like, man, I really hope I don't hit anything at the bottom here. Yeah. Because that would be really unfortunate.
Yeah. After all that.
Yeah.
So you win that one, and the whole ski world should be in the palm of your hand because what you did and at that event, and everybody's so fired up. And then the pandemic kind of sets in. And what does the pandemic do? Because like you have so much momentum, and then does everything just shut down on you for like a year and a half?
Yeah, pretty much. So we went over to Europe after that and we competed in Andorra we went to. So Andorra, we just had a lot of issues with weather, but we eventually made the comp work, which was sick. I think I got 4th in that one. And then we went to Fieberbrunn. And that's definitely when the pandemic was starting to hit. You know, like I was sharing a room with Emma Patterson and Jacqueline, and Emma was getting calls from her parents being like, you need to come back to the States. Like, this is about to kick off really badly. And they were really worried. She was like, no, but I want to stay and compete. And then she was getting nervous. It was just, we're watching things slowly shut down. And we competed in Fieberbrunn. That's where I attempted my first backflip in competition.
How'd that go?
Ooh, I under-rotated a little bit. I almost had it. I was just starting to get backflips back around that time because I'd been through a bit of a hiatus with backflips. Yeah, I kept landing on my head and hurting myself, so I had to like fully relearn them, and that was during my relearning period. But yeah, after that, the pandemic kind of like set in, and we left Fieberbrunn, and the ski resort closed the next day, and I skied a day in St. Anton, and then St. Anton closed the next day, and then we get to Verbier. We skied a couple of days, and then we heard this weird rumor that They were going to try and run the competition. They were still hoping to run the competition, but it might be that there was no spectators or the mountain wasn't open. They were going to have to cash us up or something. They were trying to make things work with what was happening.
Right.
And we heard a rumor that it was potentially the last day the mountain was open. So we all did a visual inspection ahead of time, just in case, and then skied down the mountain. I even did a goodbye. I was just like, goodbye, Beck, and then just skied to the bottom. And that's when we found out the mountain was closed and it wasn't opening again. And we had a meeting that night with the tour, and they said, you know, we tried everything to make this run, guys, but we have been basically told by the government of Switzerland that this is a pandemic and we can't do this. So they were like, we're not going to be competing. But they had a bunch of alcohol left over that they were meant to, you know, sell at the competition. And so we kind of got our hands on all of that and had a massive party.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
At least you got to send it with a big send before everything shuts down. Then you have your year and a half or whatever of kind of being on lockdown. I think it was really tough where you guys were, but we're not going to talk about that. You were on fire again when you come out of the pandemic. But is there any doubt in your head that you were going to ski well? Or did you come out of the pandemic with like supreme confidence, like, this is finally my time to take it and I'm ready?
It's funny. I definitely didn't have that headspace. I was skiing so well during the pandemic. I think having that summer off and having a summer for myself and doing something that wasn't skiing was actually really good for my headspace and not getting burnt out. And I really had a good season skiing at Treble Cone the season before I went back onto the tour. But my headspace was not there for sure. That's like the year that I won the tour was a year of big highs and lows. We were still dealing with obviously with the pandemic, and there was a really high chance that if I got hurt overseas, I wouldn't be able to come home. I would have to find a way to stay overseas. If I was injured, I would be basically on my own.
And you knew that going into it, like, right, like, hey, I can do this, but if I do get hurt, I've got a plan for this.
Yeah, exactly. And my sister was an absolute legend. She lives in London. She was like, if you get hurt, you know, if you can't get home, you can come to me. You know, I'll look after you. So I was like, okay, well, if worst comes to worst, if shit hits the fan, I can go to London. Yeah, there was a lot of the athletes were stressing about getting COVID because, you know, if we got COVID, we weren't allowed to compete and they would isolate us. And we had to, you know, you're getting vaccinations, you're getting proof that you've had it, you know, you've got all of this stuff is going on and nobody really knows how COVID works at this point, right? Like we sort of know, but it's like, if you catch it, can you catch it again? We're basically running with the assumption that if you caught it, you couldn't catch it again in a certain period of time. So that was a good way to get a free pass through each country, was to catch COVID straight away. And then you were like free game. You could get into countries because you'd just had it. And that's luckily what happened to me. I was stressing. Hedvig put me up with somewhere to stay at the beginning of the season, which was really awesome. And my friend Sunday, those guys looked after me in Switzerland, but I did get COVID and it stressed me out a lot. And I hadn't skied for the entire week going into the first competition. So it was a lot just dealing with like that headspace. First competition didn't go well. I fell down a cliff face. And actually my shovel blade is what saved my back. And then after that, I managed to get into a better headspace and that really helped. So from there, things went a lot better. But it was definitely, that season I was either winning competitions or I was like having the gnarliest crashes of my life. So it was a pretty crazy season.
Yeah, I think you won 2 events. I think you got second at another. And going into the final, did you already know that you won the overall based on points?
No, so it was actually between me and Hedvig at that point.
And you guys are super good friends.
Yeah, we're homies. So it's a funny situation to be in, you know, but ultimately when it comes to freeride, I try not to think about what the other person is up to because it really comes down to how you ski on the day. If I ski a run that I like and I ski it well, generally things go pretty well. So you try not to think about the other person. And somebody had told me, you know, at the top that Hedvig had to get a certain place and I had to get a certain place, whatever, for like she'd have to get first or second and I'd have to get below fourth to win. It was something weird like that. And I hadn't worked out that points situation. It's not something I really wanted to have in my head at the time. But I didn't have a good headspace really going into Verbier. I was a little bit injured after that massive tomahawk in February. So I had a tweaked MCL at the time. So I definitely wasn't skiing to my absolute strength. And I still had a lot of fear around speed and then was on the biggest face of my life.
Right.
So it didn't go super well. It crashed off like the main mandatory cliff. But yeah, definitely like that competition, didn't know that I'd won until I got to the bottom.
And you end up being the Freeride World Tour Champion. I mean, it's probably surreal at the moment, but I mean, you've had a couple years to reflect. How big of a day was that? And just how big of a moment, not just for your resume, not even for your ego, just to say that like, hey, 10 years ago, I was sitting in a ski shop, not even thinking about being a pro, and now I won the Freeride World Tour.
The funny thing is, I think that is the headspace that I need to channel more of, because I definitely at the time, I didn't feel like I deserved it because I had crashed in that last competition. I'd had like all these gnarly crashes as well. I was like, I'm not consistent enough. I don't deserve this. It felt surreal. It felt, yeah, like not super real, but it also felt like I didn't deserve it. And I think that's just that like imposter syndrome stuff that was like kicking in at the time. And I've had time to process that, and I'm really, really proud of that achievement now. At the time, it was a crazy thing to process because it was a lot. Like it was a lot to process at the time.
You know what's even crazier though? I mean, that's such an amazing accomplishment and everything that you've done there. But the next year, you kind of have a shit season on the Freeride World Tour, and the year after that, you're not on the tour anymore. It's like you can win the Freeride World Tour and be the champion, and then 2 years later be bumped out. Which, was that crazy to you that could happen so quickly?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about the Freeride World Tour is like a lot of the athletes don't go in with, I mean, some obviously go in with the goal of winning. They hope to win. But for me, at least, the first couple of seasons, I was just going in with the goal of making it to the finals so I could be on the tour for the next season. That's the main goal I went in with. Competing in freeride is an insanely volatile thing. It is so hard to stay in that top 50%. So you are still on the tour. I mean, that next season I went in with a pretty shit headspace. There was a lot going on in Spain in the beginning, and there's like some safety concerns and stuff. And I was also one of the athlete, whatchamacallits.
Like represent.
Like I was one of the athlete representatives as like a go-between between the actual like tour itself and the athletes.
Yep.
And a lot of athletes expressed concerns with safety for that first competition to me. And I took that really internally, I think, and it made me really not feel good about competing in that first competition. We were lucky that nobody got hurt that day, but I do remember that Ross Tester blew his skis apart. Yeah, it was that competition, particularly bad headspace. The one in Andorra, I came back into a way better headspace, which was great. My run was going so well, and I found the one patch of soft snow on the entire mountain and front punched. And then in Kicking Horse, like at that point, it was a Hail Mary that I would even stay on the tour at that point. So I was like, whether I land or I crash, like it is what it is. Then I landed in a bomb hole, which I couldn't hold on to. And that was the same run as what I'd done in that year that I'd won Kicking Horse. So it was definitely, falling off the tour was really tough. Mentally, emotionally, all of those things. You're just like, what the fuck am I going to do with my future now? You're like, yeah, where's this going to go now? Where's the journey going to take me?
But the journey took you up because, a lot of people are on the Freeride World Tour for a long time. And, when you're a pro skier, for the passion and the skiing and everything, the Freeride World Tour is it. I mean, it's some of the greatest skiing in the world and some of the greatest athletes in the world. But in terms of what people pay for from brands and stuff like that, it seems like the Freeride World Tour is an afterthought. And where you ended up was with MSP, and it's like almost winning the lottery. Now you're filming and you're only going to be skiing in great conditions, and you don't have that pressure on your shoulders of like, you have to nail your run right now or else you're screwed. And after you get through the mental bummer of not being on the tour, like, do you realize that it's almost refreshing that you get to go film?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It was funny. So those relationships were made, through my sponsors, especially Head. Head is the one who really opened up that door with MSP, and
their checkbook help.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, because obviously, so many people think that as a ski movie athlete, you're getting paid to be in the movie, but that's not the case. Your sponsors and sometimes yourself are paying to be in the movie. So to have sponsors that are willing to do that for you, to pay that money and to have that exposure, and they want you to be there and they have those relationships, that's huge. I was so lucky that I had that, and it's led me down this really, really wonderful path. And, Head's done their own their own movie for 3 years now. We've been filming with Jeff Thomas and all the other filmers that he gets involved, but primarily Jeff is doing a lot of the filming. The man is so skilled and he works so hard.
And he's a good skier too.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. It is, yeah. So we have to do an annual backflip. Every year Jeffy has to do a backflip. And he does the nicest backflip. Better backflips than I would ever do, like he just rips some really steezy backflip and he's like, cool, done my one for the year, But the man's carrying like a 50-pound backpack around the mountains. There's been times when he's carrying his red, like an FX3. He's carrying like 2 drones and a tripod. That man is carrying like the weight of a child on his back at all times.
And he's not afraid of hard work. He's like the hardest worker out there. He knows all the angles and he's been doing it for like 26 years.
I'm in the presence of greatness. It's so sick. Pretty much my first ever filming opportunity was with Jeffy at Callahan, and I was with Ian Morrison, Riley LeBeau, and Blake Marshall. And we were on the tour. It was that first year of the tour. And we're in between competitions, and we went for a head filming trip for one of the head course stories, I think it was. And we went to Callahan, to the Journeyman Lodge. And the whole time I was like, in my head, I was like, I need to work so hard. I'm going to work so hard. This is like the best opportunity, like I just wanted to try so hard for those guys. And I'm really stoked that I went in with that mindset, because I think that it really helped bump my reputation, which was really awesome. Like I really want to try and do well for people and not waste their time. So yeah, I tried really hard on that. And after that, there was chats about potentially maybe getting to film with Blank in the future. And then obviously COVID happened and I was sitting in New Zealand going, fuck, I really hope I get to film with Blank one day. That actually lined up in the end, which was so sick. And I got to then go and film with, like Alexi and one day I was out with ABM, Stan, Alexi, and Cody came out as well, Cody Townsend. And I was like, holy shit, this is such a heavy hitting group of people. And I was trying to ski these lines with like Cody mentoring you. And it wasn't until the end of the day that I was like, holy crap, this is such a pinch-me moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like the people on the Freeride World Tour, every year people graduate into the film world. And then when you go on trips with those guys, I mean, they become like the legends of the industry. And yeah, it's pretty cool that that's your route as well, because that's where you are right now. And really, that's our podcast, but it's not over, because I have a segment in all my shows that I call Inappropriate Questions. And that's where I get a friend of yours to ask 3 questions that can be anything. And this week I was able to get a good friend of yours, a good friend of mine. She's a newer mom. She's not a new mom anymore. She's an Olympian and a longtime pro skier and also a Jew. I'm talking about Anna Segal. She's the one that's going to ask you the inappropriate questions. And are you ready?
That was coming. Yeah.
Are you ready for question number 1 from Anna?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Why did you buy a secondhand sled and a secondhand truck without getting a mechanic to look at it? What does that say about you?
Oh my God. Okay. The truck, my friend Ben, who's reasonably good with cars, helped me look at that. And it was a super last minute, like I'm trying to find a car today kind of situation. That turned out to be a very, very bad purchase. So for a $7,000 truck, I have now put about $11,000 into fixing it in like 2.5 years.
Wow. So don't impulse buy a car.
Yeah, not in Canada. Get a mechanic, like take it to a mechanic and get it properly looked at. But also like the things that broke, a lot of the things that broke on it were things that like you wouldn't know from a mechanic. It was like transmission and fuel sensor module or something and alternator, and the list goes on. Anyways, the sled was a funny one because I was like, I need to buy a sled and I've got this truck now, so I guess I'm going to try and find a sled. So I found one out by Invermere near Panorama, and I was like, I need somebody to look at this thing with me. And I couldn't find any friends in Fernie who knew anything about sleds that were available to come and look at this sled with me, because they were all working, unfortunately. So yeah, I still remember looking at this this will be funny for snowmobilers as well. They'll be like, what the fuck, Jess? I went and looked at it and watched a YouTube video on like what to look at when purchasing a sled. And then I went to like look at the clutch, didn't realize the clutch actually has a clutch cover. So I was just looking at this like spare belt just chilling on the outside. And I was like, yeah, clutch is fine. Put the freaking panel back on and was like, yeah, sure. Didn't even look at the clutch. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just got really lucky and really unlucky as well.
I mean, it sounds like the truck broke down a bunch. Sled do the same thing.
Yeah, sled broke down a couple times. Truck has been the bane of my existence, and I still have it.
All right. Well, at least you still have it, and you've invested a lot. Hopefully it lasts longer. Let's go with your second inappropriate question.
Tell us 3 telltale signs that a skier boy has a girlfriend.
Oh, I don't know. 3 telltale signs. I don't know. I'm on the spot now. 3 telltale signs that the
Well, we can
boy has a girlfriend.
we can spin it. We can spin it as well. Do you ever date other skiers, and is it weird when you're a better skier than the dude that you're dating?
Oh yeah, no, I have some seriously controversial opinion. I don't like teaching people. I mean, like teaching kids and stuff is sick, but teaching a partner, I get such a heavy ick if that person. I'm okay with somebody not being at my level, but if they have a bad attitude about it, if I leave them behind and they have a bad attitude, then big ick, done.
All right. Well, we will leave question 2 at that, and we'll jump into her final inappropriate question.
Is it the same as a dip your pan in company ink? Is it the same in the ski world?
So you know where this question's going. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, and I have absolutely blown it before.
Just
Yeah.
by dating people that are on the same team as you, or what?
Yeah. There's definitely been moments where I've like say hooked up with somebody, and then you're working with them further down the line, and yeah, there can be a lot of awkwardness. And
Like hooking up with someone one night and then being in a cat with them or on a sled with them the next day?
it hasn't been anything quite so like I haven't like gone out to the bar and like hooked up with some random and then they showed up the next day at the sled track at the trailhead or anything. But definitely don't shit where you eat is a very strong, very important statement. And I have learnt through experience, and I've got friends that are currently learning through experience the exact same.
All right. So you heard it there. Don't shit where you eat. That was Inappropriate Questions, and that's the podcast. And for a girl that sent it for the first 22 years of your life as a ski bum and really had no aspirations to be a pro skier whatsoever, it's incredible that you took your background and turned it into not just being a pro skier, but being a Freeride World Tour Champion. I mean, it's incredible. It's a rags to riches story without the riches because it's skiing. And I thank you for sharing it, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So that was time with Jess Hotter. And man, I've had a lot of Kiwis on lately. And they all are great, but different stories. With Jess, it's another one of those ski bum creates a pro career. And those to me are the best stories. The ones where you don't have a goal or a chance at being a pro skier, and one swift kick to a gap year in Canada by your parents kickstarts the whole damn thing. That's the podcast. Thank you for tuning in each week. Thank you for reviewing me wherever you listen. And finally, please support my incredible sponsors. They are Elan Skis, Stanley, Therm-ic Heated Socks, Best Day Brewing, Outdoor Research, and Descent Labs. Have a great week, everyone.